Auckland moving.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I call Denise Lee.
It's been a short journey, Madam Speaker, and a short battle. And unfortunately, we've gotten to the point where here we are at the third and final reading before this looks likely to pass and we head into activity or an activation this Sunday. Today is Tuesday, this Sunday, July the 1st. It'll be D-Day. There's something very ironic, is there not, and almost poetic about how this bill has gone through its final stages in Parliament, Madam Speaker, because it's the perfect representation of the shoddy process that surrounded this tax throughout its development, throughout its life here in the halls of Parliament. Last week we had the committee stage. It was incredibly vigorous. As you'll know on the other side of the House, it was vigorous because we were all up on our feet on this side of the House. In fact, at one point, Madam Speaker, I was up on my feet for 2.5 hours trying to get a call and didn't get one. Next time. It's the perfect representation of what we've had going on because we've tried to scrutinise part by part in that committee stage, but what actually happened in that committee stage, Madam Speaker, we found so many flaws, so many SOPs, so many supplementary order papers to put forward that it wasn't just about the principle of the tax and it wasn't just about technically how it could be implemented and the flaws around that. It was just that the government wanted to pass it into, the government suggested urgency, well, voted urgency, so that they could pass it really quick. Very representative of how shoddy this whole process has been. We had to go into urgency last week, and then on top of that, they tried to block any more debate on it. Unheard of, unprecedented moves. And this is why we have some serious issues about the passage and where we find ourselves late this afternoon. The government is putting in so much effort, Madam Speaker, an incredible amount of effort, and are willing to sacrifice some of those democratic processes and responsibilities that we have as a parliament so that they can give the Mayor of Auckland what he wants, a new tax, by this Sunday. Either that or possibly the shortened process is because Phil Twyford had enough of sitting in the chair in front of the committee for nearly 10 hours while we had to debate what the flaws were, and he was possibly just desperate to get out of the chair, hence the shortened process. I'm not sure. As I said, this has been a perfect representation of the entire process that this fuel tax has been through. Since it was first proposed, both the Council and the Government have arrogantly pushed it through step by step. They've foregone convention, foregone process, and the public consultation itself, of course, was shortened. The Select Committee process was shortened. Each new round showed that the majority of public opposition was strengthening. It was building. As people began to understand what was happening, that opposition strengthened and it built. The only poll that was used as a mandate by both the government and the council to ram this through was a poll, this is so ironic, a poll that was used before we knew what the national tax fuel increases would be. They used a poll before everyone knew what the extra excise nationwide taxes would be on top of this. But, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, we know that it seems and it appears to us that the two Phils know best. But there are some things that they don't know, or maybe they've just decided to deliberately ignore. And that is, of course, and raised by many speakers on our side of the House, the cost of living. This is a significant issue and one for which members of the government's own team back in council land has raised. It's obviously not a priority because the bill's being pushed through despite these concerns being highlighted. The Ministry of Transport itself had very little time and capacity to do research on what the impact of this particular new tax would be. We heard submission after submission in Select Committee, the shortened Select Committee process, that highlighted the concerns around this very issue. And it seems to me that this should be counter to general Labor Party policy, that you can ram through a tax that impacts those who are struggling in Auckland and not pay any attention to it, not have any regard for those who are struggling in society. I saw an article yesterday, Madam Speaker, from the manager of Gull, where he expected and he said he'll be seeing queues at the petrol stations this Saturday before what he described as, and I'm quoting here, one hell of a tax. It starts on Sunday, and he said that Gull would pass on the entire 11.5 cents per litre onto consumers. BP have also confirmed the same thing, that they'll pass on the cost come July 1st, and I expect that it'll be standard practice around the country. But it's not just at the pump, as I was saying before, where people and families will be paying. It's the increased expenditure to other parts of households and the impact that they will face. Now, a colleague on the other side of the House, Michael Wood from Mount Roskill, quoted a friend of the National Party. He referred to EMA and a quote that he had come across. How about the other side of the House quote their own party representatives, not just friends of the Labor Party, members of the Labor Party? And I refer to, of course, Labor Party councillor Whaana Efeso Collins. He was one of 4 councillors from the old Manukau City Council ward, so South Auckland councillors, who voted against the fuel tax. Not for it, against it. And I quote from Efeso, "This tax is taking food off people's tables." You can't get any more straightforward than that. Our people, he said, have been paying our rates and they never push back. Well, it's time to push back. Unfortunately, that memo didn't pass over to his colleagues here in the halls of Parliament. Alf Filipaina, he said, even though he voted for the tax, he said that his people were unanimous in their opposition to the tax. That's incredibly telling. Both councillors know that in the last few rate rounds in South Auckland, South Aucklanders have been hit hard. CVs have gone up, rates have gone up in South Auckland, so they're very aware of the impact of this particular bill. I seriously question, Madam Speaker, whether government MPs would vote for this and back this if it wasn't for their colleagues, the 2 Phils, saying from their perspectives, from their desks, that this is what they need to do. Because this seems to me very counterintuitive to what we'd expect from standard Labor Party policy. The last thing I want to touch on, Madam Speaker, is I think what is a deliberate skewing of what the debate is and what the debate should be about from the very get-go. What I really strongly object to is the idea that the debate is about this or that. The debate is do this, do the tax, or you won't get the solutions. Do the tax, you won't get the projects fixed. Phil Goff used the terms, our city will grind to a halt. He also said if you don't have this, it won't even be business as usual. Really? The idea that you install a tax or you get no projects, the idea that the government they say pay this or live with congestion, that is not what the issue is, and we all know it. We all know it, Madam Speaker. The government has turned this into a debate about projects, which ones are in, which ones are out, but it's not that, it's a funding debate. We had the ATAP projects listed, and so does the government. So this is not about whether you have the projects or whether you don't. And I heard from the Minister earlier on, Madam Speaker, all the list of projects that are in, they're out. We have some questions around that. For instance, we'd love to know when Penlink starts. We're hearing now that it's in about a 10-year decade, not tomorrow like the inference that is being made. So if it is a funding debate and not a debate about projects, Madam Speaker, then why is it that they've just gone for the easy tax option? Well, it's because that's the standard Labor Party knee-jerk reaction. Let's get to the tax option. And in my final seconds, Madam Speaker, as I did when I last spoke on this, if you're looking for solutions and you're looking for solutions on funding, which is what this should be about, not erroneous tax or have no project debate. If you're looking solutions, and the Green Party member before I spoke said, let's help our largest city deal with congestion, let's help them by bringing on staffing, procurement and strategic asset debate.
Remember, your time has expired. Maya Lubeck, I understand this is a split call.
Tēnā koe, Madam Speaker, and thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I'm very happy to take a call on this land transport management.